My daughter-in-law forced me to sweep the sidewalk. Stop pretending you're the lady of the house. Do something useful for once. I stayed silent. I swallowed my tears and kept sweeping. But just then, I heard an engine cut out. My son had arrived without warning. And when he saw me, with the broom in my hand and my eyes full of tears, he froze. There are moments in life that break you in two. Moments where the world stops, and you realize something is broken forever. For me, that moment was on an ordinary Saturday in March, under the harsh 11 o'clock morning sun, with an old broom in my hands and the bitter taste of humiliation in my mouth. My name is Eleanor. I am 67 years old. And the woman screaming at me as if I were her employee was my daughter-in-law. My daughter-in-law forced me to sweep the sidewalk. Stop pretending you're the lady of the house. Do something useful for once. I stayed silent. I swallowed my tears and kept sweeping. But just then, I heard an engine cut out. My son had arrived without warning, and when he saw me, with the broom in my hand and my eyes full of tears, he froze. There are moments in life that break you in two. Moments where the world stops, and you realize something is broken forever. For me, that moment was on an ordinary Saturday in March, under the harsh 11 o'clock morning sun, with an old broom in my hands and the bitter taste of humiliation in my mouth. My name is Eleanor. I am 67 years old. And the woman screaming at me as if I were her employee was my daughter-in-law. But before you think I'm one of those bitter mothers-in-law who complains about everything, let me tell you something. I built that house with my own two hands. Well, with my husband Arthur's and mine, brick by brick, dollar by dollar. For 32 years, we worked ourselves to the bone, to have a decent roof over our heads, a place where our family could grow without fear. That morning, as the bristles of the broom scraped the concrete sidewalk, I felt like every sweep was erasing a piece of me. The neighbors were watching from their windows. Mrs. Helen, from the corner, was shaking her head. Young Paige, who always greeted me with such warmth, had tears in her eyes. And Chloe, my daughter-in-law, was standing on the porch of my own house with her arms crossed, watching me like a warden. Faster, Eleanor. My friends are coming at 2, and I don't want them to see this place looking like a dump. Every word was a slap. But the worst part wasn't what she said. It was that I was letting it happen. How did I get here? How did a woman who raised a son on her own, who ran a business, who survived the death of her husband, end up sweeping her own sidewalk while her daughter-in-law treated her like a servant? The sun burned the back of my neck. Sweat ran down my back. My hands were shaking, not just from the effort, but from the contained rage, from the pain of being reduced to this. And then I heard the engine. A navy blue Ford Escape braked right in front of the house. I recognized that car before I saw who got out. It was Matthew, my son, my only son. He was supposed to be in Chicago on a business trip until Monday. What was he doing here? The door opened. Matthew got out, his briefcase in hand, with that tired look he always had after traveling. But when he saw me, when his eyes met mine, everything changed. I froze, the broom still in my hands. The tears I had managed to hold back began to roll down my cheeks without permission. Matthew looked at me. He looked at the broom. He looked at Chloe standing on the porch with that smug expression. And his face, dear God, his face transformed into something I had never seen. What is going on here? His voice was cold, controlled, dangerous. Chloe turned pale. For the first time in months, I saw fear in her eyes. Matthew, honey, what a nice surprise. Your mom was just. My mom was what? The silence that followed was deafening. Mrs. Helen came out of her house. She couldn't hold back anymore. Young man, your wife spoke horribly to your mother. We all saw it. She put her to work sweeping the sidewalk like she was. She couldn't finish the sentence. Matthew's briefcase fell to the ground with a thud. He walked into the house without another word. I followed him, my legs trembling, not knowing what would happen. Chloe came up behind us, already trying to explain, to smooth things over, to lie. My son stopped in the middle of the living room, the room I had decorated with so much love. But something was different. He noticed it too. He turned slowly, looking at every corner. His eyes were searching for something. Mom, His voice cracked. "Where are the pictures of my dad?" And right there, in that moment, something inside me exploded. All the humiliations I had swallowed. All the insults disguised as advice. All the times they made me feel like I was in the way in my own home. "Your wife put them away," I said, in a voice I didn't recognize as my own. "She said they made the living room look dated." Matthew closed his eyes, clenched his fists. "What else did she put away, Mom?" And then it all came out, like a river breaking a dam. I told him about the wicker rocking chair where his father read the paper every evening, stored in the basement. I told him about the terracotta-colored curtains I had embroidered myself, replaced without asking me. I told him about the chore lists, the hurtful words, about feeling like an intruder in the home I built. Matthew didn't interrupt. He just listened, and with every word I spoke, his expression grew harder. Chloe tried to defend herself. "Honey, she's exaggerating. I just wanted to modernize the house, make it more." "Modernize it?" Matthew cut her off with an icy stare. "Or erase us?" Then he pulled out his cell phone. His fingers trembled as he looked for something on the screen. "There's something I need to show you, Mom. What I saw on that phone, what I discovered in that moment, was only the beginning. Because it turned out I wasn't the only one Chloe had been deceiving. And what was about to be revealed was going to destroy everything we thought we knew. If this story is stirring something inside you, don't go anywhere. Subscribe to this channel, because what comes next is something I never imagined could happen to me, and I need someone to hear it." What do you think Matthew discovered on that phone? How far had Chloe gone with her plan? Wait until you hear what's next. Because when the truth came out, even I was in shock. Before I tell you what Matthew discovered on that phone, I need you to understand something. I wasn't always this frightened woman sweeping sidewalks at her own home. There was a time when I was strong, when my hands didn't tremble, when no one, absolutely no one, dared to disrespect me. That woman died 12 years ago, on a Tuesday in October, when Arthur's heart stopped without warning. We were having breakfast. He had just turned 58. I was 55. We had been married for 33 years, and we still held hands when we walked through the park. We still laughed at jokes that only we understood. That morning, I made his coffee just as he liked it, black, with a hint of cinnamon. He was reading the newspaper, complaining about politics like he did every day. Suddenly, he dropped the paper. He looked at me with a strange expression. He opened his mouth to say something, and he collapsed. "A massive heart attack," the doctor said. He didn't suffer, they assured me, as if that helped. I was left alone, with a 3-bedroom house in a quiet suburban neighborhood, with sand-colored walls he had painted himself, with a garden where he grew his prize-winning roses because he knew they were my favorite, with memories in every corner and a silence that weighed like a stone. But I was also left with something else. A few acres of land upstate that we bought when Matthew was 10, thinking we'd build a small cabin someday. A piece of land that was now worth about $150,000, and savings of $45,000 that we scraped together through every storm, every crisis. Arthur and I were never rich. He worked at a hardware store, and I ran a small supply shop across from the high school. I sold notebooks, pens, made copies, nothing glamorous. But it was honest. It was ours. When Arthur died, many thought I would fall apart, that I'd sell everything and live off my son's charity. But no, I kept the shop going for 5 more years. I got up at 6 in the morning, opened at 7, tended to the students, the teachers, the neighborhood ladies who came in for copies of their recipes. I'd get home at 8 at night, make myself a chamomile tea, sit in the wicker rocking chair that had been Arthur's, and cry. But the next day, I'd get up and do it all over again. That's how it was for years. Matthew was grown by then, working for a logistics company in Chicago. He visited me every other week. I told him I was fine, not to worry, that his mom was strong. And I was. Or at least I thought so. The house. Oh, this house. Every inch has a story. The terracotta curtains in the living room, I embroidered those myself one entire winter while Arthur watched football games and brought me coffee. The kitchen floor, we picked it out together at a wholesale tile depot, haggling until we got a good price. The garden was Arthur's pride. He planted those rose bushes when Matthew turned 5. So there's always color in this house, he said. And oh, there was. Deep reds, bright pinks, climbing up the fence like a waterfall of flowers. In the living room, we had an old dark wood cabinet where we kept the family photos. Arthur holding Matthew on his baptism day. Me, pregnant, hands on my belly, smiling on our anniversary trip. Matthew graduating from college, in his cap and gown, with us on either side, bursting with pride. And the rocking chair. That wonderful wicker rocking chair Arthur bought at a craft market in Santa Fe on our only big anniversary trip. He would sit there every evening with the paper and his coffee, rocking slowly while he told me about his day. After he died, I would sit there, close my eyes, rock, and for a moment, just a brief instant, I'd feel like he was still with me. That house wasn't just walls and a roof. It was my entire life. It was Arthur. It was Matthew as a child running down the hall. It was every sacrifice, every early morning, every bill paid with sweat. That's why, 3 years ago, when my son told me he'd met someone, I was thrilled. Matthew was already 35. He worked so much he'd never had a serious relationship. Seeing him in love, with that light in his eyes, made me happy. Her name is Chloe, Mom. She works in insurance. She's smart, independent. I think she's the one. I met her on a Sunday. She arrived in a pale blue dress, sensible heels, a perfect smile, straight black hair down to her shoulders, flawless makeup, and practiced manners. Eleanor, it's so wonderful to meet you. Matthew has told me so much about you. We sat in the living room. I had made coffee and pecan cookies. Chloe looked around with those calculating eyes, touched the back of the sofa, observed the curtains, glanced at the photographs. What a cozy house, she said. But there was something in her tone, something I couldn't decipher then. Matthew was happy, and I wanted to be happy for him, so I smiled and poured more coffee. While they were dating, Chloe was always polite, but there were comments. Small, subtle ones. Oh, Eleanor, do you still use embroidered tablecloths? I prefer minimalist ones. They're more modern. These photos are nice, but so many in one room make it look cluttered, don't you think? Eleanor, with all due respect, that rocking chair is really old. Haven't you thought about tossing it? I swallowed every comment. I didn't want to be the difficult mother-in-law, the one who ruins her son's happiness. They got married in a small ceremony. Chloe insisted on a minimalist garden setting, no flashy flowers. It's more elegant, she said. I kept quiet, even though I would have loved to see roses, like the ones in my garden. For the first 6 months, they lived in a rented condo downtown. It seemed like everything was fine. Until Chloe called me one day. Eleanor, I need to talk to you. Can I come over? She arrived alone. She sat in my living room. She took my hands with a warmth I now know was completely false. Eleanor, I'm worried about you. Living alone at your age is dangerous. What if you fall? What if something happens and no one is there to help you? Matthew and I have been talking. Why don't you come live with us? You deserve to be accompanied, to be cared for. We love you so much. Her words sounded beautiful, but when I analyze them now, I realize. She never said, "Come live in our home," she said, "with us," as if the house was already hers. I made the biggest mistake of my life. I said yes. I thought I was making the right decision. I thought I would be close to my son, that we would be a family. I didn't know I was handing my entire life over to the wrong person. The move was fast. Too fast. Chloe organized everything in less than 2 weeks. She hired a moving company. She packed my things without asking what I wanted to take and what I didn't. When I tried to protest, she smiled with that venomous sweetness I later learned to recognize. Oh, Eleanor, don't you worry about a thing. I'll take care of it. You just relax. Relax. As if uprooting an entire life is something you do without feeling anything. The day I closed the door to my house for the last time, I stood on the threshold for several minutes. I looked back. The garden with the roses. The living room window where I had watched life go by so many times. The green gate that Arthur painted the last summer we spent together. Are you sure about this, Mom? Matthew asked, carrying the last box. I wanted to tell him no. I wanted to scream that I felt like my soul was being ripped out, but I saw the happiness in his eyes. I saw how Chloe hugged him, how she whispered something in his ear that made him smile. Yes, son. I'm sure. A lie. The first of many I would swallow. Matthew and Chloe's house was modern. White walls, minimalist furniture, everything in shades of gray and beige. Cold, impersonal, like a magazine photo where no one actually lives. Welcome to your new home, Eleanor, Chloe said, opening her arms in a theatrical gesture. They gave me the back bedroom, the smallest one, the one that faced the utility area, where you could hear the neighbors' washing machines and the constant barking of a dog that never shut up. It's the quietest one, Chloe justified. The street noise won't bother you here. My furniture didn't fit. The bed Arthur and I had shared for over 30 years didn't match the aesthetic. It ended up in a cousin's storage unit. The wicker rocking chair ended up in the junk room. My embroidered curtains were replaced with gray vertical blinds. It's just that old things collect dust, Eleanor. And at your age, you need more hygienic spaces. My age. That phrase became the excuse for everything. The first few days were confusing. Chloe seemed attentive. She made me tea. She asked if I needed anything. But there were unspoken rules I was discovering the hard way. I couldn't move anything. Everything has its place, Eleanor. I couldn't cook without her permission. It's just that I have a system, no offense. I couldn't invite my friends over. Let me know well in advance so I can have the house presentable. I couldn't sit in the living room if she had visitors. It's just that I need privacy with my friends, you understand? Matthew worked all day. He left at 7 in the morning. He came back at 9 at night. He'd arrive tired, eat a quick dinner, and lock himself in his study to finish work. On weekends, he slept late, exhausted. I barely saw him. And when I did, Chloe was always there. The list started in the second month. I'd find them on the dining room table every morning, written in Chloe's perfect script on her work letterhead. Good morning, Eleanor. Today we need to wash the bedding, iron Matthew's shirts, dust the entire living room, have lunch ready by 2 p.m., water the garden plants, clean the bathrooms. At first I thought it was a suggestion, a kind reminder. But when I didn't finish everything because my back hurt, Chloe came home from work with an expression I hadn't seen before. Eleanor, can I talk to you? I sat down, already sensing what was coming. Look, I understand you're used to your own pace. But things work differently here. Matthew and I work all day. We earn the money that keeps this house running. Well, you're here all day. Don't you think it's fair that you collaborate? Collaborate. What a nice word for work without pay in a house that isn't yours. It's just that my back was hurting, Chloe. I'm 67 years old and, oh, Eleanor, my mother is 70 and she doesn't stop. It's a matter of attitude. That comparison became constant. Her mother, who was younger than me but more active. Her mother, who cooked better. Her mother, who didn't complain. I started completing the lists, not because I wanted to, but because the atmosphere became unbearable when I didn't. Chloe didn't yell. She didn't have to. Her silence was worse. Her sighs. Her looks of disappointment when Matthew asked why the house was messy. Chloe's friends visited every 2 weeks. Women her age, elegant, with designer bags and loud laughs. I would hide in my room when they arrived. But one day, I heard my name. And your mother-in-law? Oh, girl, don't even get me started. She's one of those old-school mothers-in-law, you know? Thinks everything should be like it was in her day. Laughter. So what do you do with her? Well, I have her here. I gave her a roof, food. But this whole feeling like she's the owner thing. No, good for you, girl. You have to set boundaries from the beginning. I stood frozen behind my bedroom door. My heart was pounding so hard I thought they would hear it. She gave me a roof? That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on the edge of my narrow bed, in that room that smelled like damp, and I thought about my house. My house, which was still there, with the roses and the memories of Arthur. What was I doing here? But then I thought of Matthew, of not causing him problems, of not being the difficult mother-in-law who ruins marriages. So I swallowed the pain. Again. And I kept sweeping, washing, cooking, disappearing, a little more each day. I understand now that you don't lose your place all at once. You lose it bit by bit. In every comment you let slide. In every humiliation you swallow. In every time you prioritize peace over your dignity. And by the time you want to react, it's already too late. There's a difference between being a guest and being a prisoner. It took me 6 months to understand that. It all started with small things. So small they seemed insignificant. So subtle that when I tried to explain them to Matthew, I just sounded like I was exaggerating. One day I came back from the store and found my favorite quilt was gone. It was a hand-knitted quilt my mother gave me when I got married. A deep wine color with embroidered yellow flowers. I had treasured it for 40 years. "Chloe, have you seen my quilt?" "Oh, Eleanor, that thing was falling apart. I put it in a bag to donate. It just didn't look good anymore, you understand? We have to update, as if memories were trash to be thrown out." I went looking for it. I checked every corner of the house. I never found it. When I mentioned the quilt to Matthew, he sighed wearily. "Mom, if it was already old, Chloe's right. I'll buy you a new one, okay?" He didn't understand. It wasn't about how old it was. It was about what it meant. But I stopped insisting. I was already learning that my feelings didn't weigh as much as Chloe's convenience. The photographs were next. I woke up one Sunday, and the living room was different. The wooden cabinet where I had carefully placed the family portraits was empty. In its place, Chloe had hung 3 abstract paintings, gray smudges on a white background. "Where are the photos?" "I stored them in a box, Eleanor. They just made the living room look so cluttered. This artwork is more modern, don't you think? It gives the space an open feel, while my entire life was disappearing into boxes." "But are Matthew's baby pictures there? The ones of his dad? The ones of—" Yes, they're all put away. If you want to see them, I'll put them in your room." In my room, that tiny space where a bed barely fit. That night, I waited for Matthew to get home. I had to tell him. I had to make him see what was happening. "Son, I need to talk to you." "Go ahead, Mom, but make it quick. I'm dead tired." Chloe took down all the photographs in the living room. Matthew didn't even look up from his phone. "Yeah." She showed me the new paintings. "They look good, right? More modern. But those are pictures of your father, Matthew. Of your childhood. Mom, they still exist. They're just not in the living room. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal." Those 5 words became the epitaph for my complaints. Arthur's rocking chair disappeared on a Thursday afternoon. I got back from taking Mrs. Helen to the doctor, and it was gone from the porch where I had placed it. And the rocker? That. I sent it to be reupholstered, Eleanor. It was awful, all the paint peeling. They'll bring it back in 2 weeks, good as new. 2 weeks passed, then 4, then 2 months. "Chloe, has the rocking chair arrived yet?" "Oh, I forgot to ask the upholsterer. I'll do it later." She never did, and I never saw that rocker again. Years later, I learned she had sold it at a flea market for $50. The rocker where Arthur sat every evening. The only piece of him I had left. $50. But at that moment, I still didn't know how far she was capable of going. The changes sped up. Chloe redecorated the entire house in less than 3 months. The peach-colored walls were painted light gray. The floral curtains I had hung were replaced by white roller blinds. The embroidered cushions vanished. The landscape paintings Matthew and I bought on a trip to New England were replaced with black and white photos of European buildings. The house became unrecognizable, cold, empty, like a dentist's office. And I became invisible. When Chloe's friends visited, she would parade them through the house, showing off every change. I did this. It was horrible before, you can't imagine. So outdated. But you see, with good taste, you can transform any space. I would listen from the kitchen, washing the dishes they dirtied, making the coffee they drank, cleaning the crumbs they left. One of her friends came into the kitchen for more sugar. "Oh, and who are you?" I froze. They had been in the house for 2 hours and didn't even know I existed. I'm Matthew's mother." "Oh, it's so great to have help around the house, isn't it?" Help. She mistook me for the housekeeper. And Chloe, who heard from the living room, didn't correct her. The chore lists grew. They weren't just household tasks anymore. Now they included specific schedules. 7 o'clock a.m. Prepare breakfast. 8 o'clock a.m. Do laundry. 10 o'clock a.m. Mop the entire house. 12 o'clock p.m. Go to the supermarket. Grocery list attached. 2 o'clock p.m. Lunch ready. 4 o'clock p.m. Ironing. 6 o'clock p.m. Prepare dinner. 8 o'clock p.m. Wash dishes. My entire day programmed. No room for me. No time to breathe. When I dared to say I needed a day to go to the doctor because my knees hurt, Chloe sighed dramatically. Oh, Eleanor, that's the exact day some of Matthew's clients are coming for dinner. I need the house to be spotless and for you to make your famous pot roast. Can you go to the doctor another day? It wasn't a question. It was an order disguised as a request. I canceled the doctor's appointment. Matthew started coming home later and later. We ate dinner in silence, the three of us. He checked his phone. Chloe talked about her day, her sales, her achievements. I chewed slowly, trying not to make noise, not to be in the way. Doesn't the house look amazing now, honey? Chloe would ask. Yeah, it's great, Matthew would reply, without looking up. Your mom helped me a lot today. She cooked a delicious meal. Helped. As if it were a favor and not my daily obligation. One night, while I was washing dishes, I heard Chloe talking on the phone with her sister, Lauren. No, don't worry. I've got everything under control. The old lady does whatever I tell her. It was a bit of a struggle at first. You know how they are. They think they're still in charge. But she understands how things work here now. I dried my trembling hands. I walked out of the kitchen and straight to my room. I sat on the bed and looked around. That tiny space, without my things, without my memories, without anything to remind me who I had been. How had I let it get to this point? At what moment did I stop being Eleanor, the owner of her own life, and become the mother-in-law, the one who obeys in silence? I went to bed that night with a weight on my chest. I didn't know the worst was yet to come, that what I had lived through so far was just the prologue, because Chloe didn't just want to control my day-to-day, she wanted to erase me completely. They say emotional abuse is like boiling water. The temperature rises slowly, degree by degree, until by the time you realize it, you're already burned. The day I stopped being a person and became a piece of furniture was a Tuesday in November. Chloe organized a dinner party for her work colleagues. 8 elegant, perfumed women with impeccable nails and practiced laughs. I spent the entire day cooking. Lasagna from scratch, a huge salad, garlic bread, and a cheesecake, because Chloe insisted the store-bought ones taste like plastic. I got up at 6 in the morning. At 7 o'clock at night, when the guests started to arrive, I was still in the kitchen. My hands smelled like garlic. My back ached. My feet were swollen inside my old shoes. Eleanor, when you serve, be discreet. And please put on a clean apron. The one you have on is stained. I served the dinner like a ghost. I'd go in, leave the plates, go out. The women didn't even look at me. They talked about sales, commissions, trips to Cancun they were planning. Chloe shined. She was the perfect hostess. She smiled, joked, filled wine glasses. Chloe, your house is beautiful. And this food. Chef's kiss. Thanks, girls. You know how much I love to cook. Oh. I froze behind the kitchen door. She loves to cook? I had spent 11 hours in that kitchen. My hands were red from washing. My blouse smelled like fried oil. And she was taking the credit as if it were nothing. When they finished dinner, one of her friends got up to use the restroom and passed by the kitchen. She saw me washing the mountain of dirty dishes. Hey, what do you charge per event? It took me a second to understand what she was asking. I'm sorry? What do you charge? I'm looking for someone for a baby shower. You cook really well. I don't. I'm Matthew's mother. Her expression changed. Discomfort. Secondhand embarrassment. Oh, I'm sorry. It's just, I thought. She didn't finish the sentence. She hurried back to the living room. I stood there, my hands submerged in soapy water, wondering at what point I had become so insignificant that people confused me with the hired help. There was nothing wrong with working in a home. My Aunt Rose had been a housekeeper her whole life, and was the most dignified woman I knew. The problem wasn't the work. The problem was the invisibility. It was not existing as a person. It was that my own daughter-in-law allowed me to be mistaken and said nothing to correct it. From that night on, the dinners became frequent. Every 2 weeks, Chloe hosted gatherings. I cooked, I served, I cleaned. She received the compliments. Matthew was never at these dinners. He always had meetings, trips, deadlines. His absence became so normal that I stopped missing him. Or maybe I just got used to the abandonment. The chore lists weren't enough for Chloe anymore. Now she came with an imaginary stopwatch. "Eleanor, that bathroom should have been done 20 minutes ago. What happened? It's just that the tile was I'm not interested." When something takes longer than necessary, it's because it's not being done right. Learn to organize yourself better. Organize. As if my 67 years and my aching knees were just excuses from a lazy person. I stopped eating with them. Not because Chloe directly told me to, but because the atmosphere was so tense it made my stomach clench. I ate in the kitchen, standing up, quickly. Whatever was left over from what I prepared for them. I lost 15 pounds in 4 months. "Mom, you look very thin," Matthew said one Sunday when he got a closer look at me. "I'm fine, son. Are you sure? Are you eating well?" Chloe interrupted before I could answer. "Oh, honey, your mom looks great. At our age, it's good to watch our weight. Right, Eleanor?" I nodded, because I had already learned that contradicting Chloe in front of Matthew only caused more problems. Sundays were the worst. Chloe would invite her family, her mom, Susan, her sister, Lauren, with her 2 teenage kids, her father, Robert, who never spoke but looked with disdain at everything that wasn't to his liking. I would prepare food for 9 people. They would sit in the living room, in the dining room, talking, laughing. I served, I picked up, I washed. "Oh, Chloe, it's so nice that your mother-in-law helps you," Susan would say. Helps. That word again, as if it were my choice and not my sentence. One afternoon, while I was mopping the living room floor, I heard Lauren ask Chloe in a low voice, "And your mother-in-law doesn't have anywhere to live? Is that why she's here? She has a house, but she's too old to live alone. Besides, this way she helps me with the chores. It's a win-win. Win-win. A mutual benefit, as if I were gaining anything other than daily humiliation. My only escape was Mrs. Helen, my lifelong neighbor who now lived 3 blocks away. I visited her on Wednesday afternoons, when Chloe left early for her spin class. "Eleanor, you look worse every time I see you," Helen would tell me, her eyes full of concern. "What is that woman doing to you?" "Nothing, Helen. I'm just tired." "That's not tired. That's sadness. She's consuming you." Helen was right, but admitting it out loud meant accepting that I had made the worst mistake of my life. One night, looking through some papers in my room, I found the deed to my house. The house that was still mine. The one I had left, locked up, waiting for me. I ran my fingers over the document. Over my name written there. Eleanor Hayes. When had I stopped being that woman? When had I allowed myself to be reduced to the mother-in-law, the old lady, the help? I put the document away. But that night, I dreamed of my garden, of the roses, of Arthur's rocking chair, of the curtains I had embroidered myself. I dreamed of freedom. And I woke up in that tiny cell they now called my room. Things got worse when Chloe decided she needed to remodel the master bathroom. A $6,000 expense. "It's an investment in the house," she explained to Matthew. "It adds value, the house. As if it were theirs. As if I didn't exist." Matthew agreed without hesitation. He always agreed to everything Chloe proposed. But I, in my stupidity, made a mistake. "Matthew, don't you think that's a lot of money? Maybe we could." "Mom, Chloe knows about these things. She works, she understands investments." The look Chloe shot me was one of pure triumph. Message received. I didn't have an opinion. I didn't make decision. I didn't matter. Weeks passed, then months. I was aging faster than normal. The mirror showed me a woman I didn't recognize. Sunken eyes, dull skin, slumped shoulders. Where was the Eleanor who built a business? The one who raised a son alone? The one who survived losing the love of her life? That woman was dead. Or so I thought, until that Saturday in March. That cursed Saturday that changed everything. The day Chloe handed me a broom and told me to clean the sidewalk. And I, dear God, I obeyed. Sometimes you don't realize you're at the bottom of a well until you look up and see no light. And then you have two choices. Stay there or start climbing, even if it makes your hands bleed. It was Saturday, March 22nd, 11 in the morning. The sun was beating down on the city. One of those days where the heat melts you from the inside and the air smells like dry earth. I was in the yard watering the plants. Chloe had insisted I plant red geraniums instead of the roses I wanted. They're easier to maintain, she said. But the geraniums looked sad, as if they knew they didn't belong. I was focused on watering when I heard the door fly open. "Eleanor!" Chloe's shriek made me drop the hose. Water started flooding the grass. She came out with her arms crossed, scowling, dressed in neon pink athletic wear and brand new white sneakers. She had just gotten back from her spin class. "Did you see the disaster on the sidewalk?" I looked up. Sure enough, there were dry leaves piled up in front of the house. The wind from the night before had blown them from the neighbor's oak tree. "Yes, I'll clean them up in a minute." "In a minute? It's 11 o'clock. The neighbors are going to think we're pigs, that we don't take care of our things." Our. Always that damned word. "Chloe, let me finish watering and I'll—" "No, now." She went into the house and came back with the old broom. She threw it at me. Literally tossed it in my direction. The handle hit me in the arm. "Stop acting like you're the lady of the house." She stood in front of me, taller, younger, more powerful. "Do something useful for once." The words pierced me like knives. Useful. As if everything I had done for months didn't count. As if my entire life of work meant nothing. I felt tears burning my eyes, but I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me cry. I took the broom. I went out to the street and started sweeping. The sun burned the back of my neck. I hadn't put on a hat. I hadn't put on sunscreen. The white blouse I was wearing was sticking to my back with sweat. Sweep after sweep, the leaves gathered in a pile. My hands were shaking, not from exhaustion. From pure, contained rage. From humiliation. Chloe stood on the porch, watching me, arms crossed like a prison guard. "Faster! My friends are coming at 2, and I don't want them to see this place looking like a dump." "Mrs." Helen came out of her house. She was 3 houses down, but she saw me. She froze. I knew that look. It was pity mixed with indignation. Paige, the young woman who lived on the corner, was walking by with her baby in a stroller. She slowed down when she saw me. Her eyes widened with surprise, with sadness. "Good morning, Mrs. Eleanor," she murmured. I couldn't answer her. If I opened my mouth, I would break. Mr. Miller, the neighbor across the street, was watering his lawn. He turned off the water. He looked at me. He looked at Chloe. He shook his head and went inside. Everyone saw me. Everyone knew. And I kept sweeping. The tears started to fall. Silent, hot. I couldn't stop them. They slid down my cheeks, fell onto the concrete, mixed with the dust. 67 years old. A whole life of working, raising a child, surviving, building. And there I was, sweeping the sidewalk of my own house while my daughter-in-law supervised me like I was her servant. Every sweep was a piece of dignity that flew away with the dry leaves. "That's it. Much better," Chloe said with satisfaction. Then I felt it. A familiar sound that made me lift my head. An engine, stopping. My heart stopped too. It was Matthew's navy blue Ford Escape. No, it couldn't be. He was in Chicago, at a logistics conference. He wasn't coming back until Monday. He had told me on Thursday night before he left. But there was his car, parking right in front of the house. The world moved in slow motion. The door opened. Matthew got out with his brown leather briefcase. He was wearing a wrinkled white shirt, his tie loosened, dark circles under his eyes, the face of someone who had been driving all night. His eyes found me, and I saw something shatter in his expression. I was there, his mother, with a broom in her hands, tears streaming down my face, my hair messy and loose, my clothes soaked in sweat, sweeping the sidewalk under the harsh sun while his wife watched me from the porch. Matthew dropped his briefcase. It hit the pavement with a dull thud. "What is going on here?" His voice was different. I didn't recognize it. It was cold, dangerous, controlled, but about to explode. Chloe turned pale. For the first time in months, I saw real fear in her eyes. "Matthew, honey, what a surprise. I didn't know. What is going on here?" He repeated the question slowly. Each word was a falling stone. "Your mom was just helping with." Helping? Mrs. Helen couldn't take it anymore. She came out of her house with the kind of courage only age can give you. "Young man, your wife spoke horribly to your mother. We all saw it. She put her to work sweeping like she was. Like she was." Helen couldn't finish. Her voice broke. Paige also got closer, still holding her baby. "It's true, Mr. Matthew." She yelled at her. She threw the broom at her. "She's been out here for over half an hour in this Sunday." Matthew looked at me. Really looked at me, as if he was seeing me for the first time in months. He saw the tears. He saw my trembling hands clinging to the broom. He saw Chloe's posture, still on the porch, with the expression of someone caught in the act. He didn't say another word. He picked up his briefcase from the ground. He walked into the house. I followed him. My legs could barely hold me. I left the broom leaning against the wall. Chloe came up behind us, her voice already syrupy, trying to fix what had just broken. "Honey, let me explain. It's just that your mom hadn't cleaned, and—" Matthew held up his hand. A simple gesture that silenced her instantly. He stood in the middle of the living room. That living room I no longer recognized. That living room Chloe had emptied of everything that was ours. He turned slowly. His eyes scanned every corner, searching, and then he asked, with a voice I had never heard, "Mom, where are the pictures of my dad?" That simple question was the key that opened the floodgates. Everything I had held back, everything I had swallowed, everything I had endured in silence for months, came pouring out. "Your wife put them away," I said. And my voice wasn't the same either. She said they made the living room look dated. Matthew closed his eyes, clenched his fists. "What else did she put away, Mom?" And then I told him, everything. Sometimes it takes someone seeing you at your absolute worst for you to finally dare to show the truth, because shared pain becomes lighter, or at least more visible. The words came out like a flood, as if they had been held back for months behind a dam that was about to collapse. I told him about my mother's hand-knitted quilt that disappeared, about the wicker rocking chair that never came back from the upholsterers, about the embroidered curtains she threw in the trash without my permission, about how every piece of Arthur, every memory of our life, had been systematically erased. I told him about the endless lists, about getting up at 6 to have everything ready, about cooking for her dinner parties while she took the credit, about eating standing up in the kitchen because there was no longer a place for me at that table. I told him about her friends who mistook me for the housekeeper, about her mother, Susan, who asked if I didn't have anywhere else to live, about her sister, Lauren, who said it was a win-win to have me there, serving them. Matthew didn't interrupt. He was sitting on the gray sofa that I hadn't chosen. His hands were clasped, his knuckles white from the pressure, his jaw tight. Chloe tried to cut in every few sentences. "That's not how it happened, honey. She's exaggerating. I never said that. She misunderstood. It's just that your mom is very sensitive. She takes everything personally." But Matthew ignored her. His eyes were fixed on me, and in them I saw something that broke my heart: guilt. When I finished talking, the silence was crushing. Matthew rubbed his face with both hands. He looked years older than when he had walked in. "Mom, I didn't know." "I know, son. No, I didn't realize that." "I know." He stood up. He walked to the wall where our photographs used to be. Now there were abstract gray smudges, hung with perfect precision. "Where are they?" he asked without turning around. "In boxes." "In the storage closet," Chloe answered in a trembling voice. "Get them." "Honey, it's just that. Get them. Now." The tone allowed no argument. Chloe left for the utility room where the storage closet was. We heard her moving things. It took several minutes. Matthew took the chance to come closer to me. "Mom, forgive me. It's not your fault, Matthew. You work so hard. You couldn't." "Yes, I could have. I should have seen you. I should have asked you. I should have." His voice broke. "I should have defended my mother." Those words broke me more than all the humiliations combined. Chloe returned, dragging 2 cardboard boxes. She dropped them in front of Matthew with more force than necessary. He knelt. He opened the first one, and what he saw made him freeze. The photographs were there, but not carefully. They were thrown in, some of them bent. The frame from our wedding had broken glass. The photo of Matthew with his dad on his graduation day was stained with damp. Matthew took them out, one by one. His hands were shaking. "These are my memories," he murmured. "My childhood. My dad. My family. They just took up so much space, honey, and they didn't match the—" "Match what, Chloe? Your gray smudge paintings? Your minimalist aesthetic that erased my entire history?" It was the first time he had spoken to her like that. Chloe recoiled as if he had hit her. Matthew kept pulling things from the boxes. He found an olive green shawl that had belonged to Arthur's grandmother. He found a set of ceramic mugs we were given at our wedding. He found the rooster-shaped wall clock his dad bought in Santa Fe. "Were you going to throw all this away?" "No, I just needed space for." "For what? To put what?" Chloe didn't answer. Matthew closed his eyes. He took a deep breath. When he opened them, he had made a decision. He pulled out his cell phone. "Mom, there's something I need to show you. Something I found out 2 weeks ago." My legs started to shake again. The tone of his voice scared me. "What is it, son?" "Sit down, please." I sat on the sofa. Matthew sat next to me. Chloe remained standing, pale as a sheet. A month ago, I started getting anonymous messages. He opened his photo gallery. He showed me screenshots, messages from an unknown number, and photographs. Many photographs. Chloe having lunch with a man at a fancy downtown restaurant. Chloe laughing, holding his hand. Chloe kissing him in a parking garage. Chloe going into a hotel with him. I felt the floor move beneath me. "At first, I thought someone was trying to hurt us," Matthew continued in a mechanical voice. "That they were edited photos, taken out of context. I deleted them. I didn't want to believe it." "Matthew, I can explain." Chloe started. "Shut up." I had never heard him speak like that, with such cold contempt. "A week ago, my accountant called me. Mr. Wallace, the family lawyer." "Do you remember him, Mom?" I nodded. Mr. Wallace had handled Arthur's will. He was an honest, trustworthy man. He told me Chloe had come to his office with some documents. She wanted to add her name to the deed of your house. The world stopped. "What?" "She brought forged papers." "With your signature, Mom." "Forged." Mr. Wallace noticed because he's known your signature for years. He handled your will, the house papers when Dad died. He knew immediately it was fake. I looked at Chloe. She was against the wall. Literally. That's not true. He's lying. Mr. Wallace showed me the documents. I have them right here. Matthew opened his briefcase. He took out a manila folder. Inside were copies of deeds, IDs, signatures, my signature, faked, poorly done, but similar enough to fool someone who didn't know it well. "You were going to steal my house?" The words came out of my mouth in a disbelieving whisper. Chloe didn't answer. Her eyes were looking for an escape that didn't exist. "There's more," Matthew said. His jaw was trembling with rage. "I checked the bank accounts. Yours, Mom. The ones you've managed since Dad died. My accounts? But I don't. I know you gave Chloe access, so she could help you with the utility payments when you moved in here. It was true. Chloe had convinced me it was just easier that way. That she could handle paying the light, water, and phone bills from her banking app. In the last 8 months, there have been transfers from your account to an account I don't recognize. Deposits of $1,000 every month. Sometimes more. I did the math in my head. My heart sped up. That's more than $9,000. $9,000 exactly, plus another $12,000 in a large transfer in December. She told you it was for a safe investment, right? I remembered that day. Chloe, so excited, explaining an investment fund that paid 8% monthly returns. It sounded too good to be true, but she insisted. It's what I do with my money, Eleanor. Trust me. She told me it was safe. That account is in the name of Chloe Miller and Julian Ramos. The name hit me like a slap. Who is Julian Ramos? Matthew showed me the photos on his phone again. The man Chloe was with. The man kissing her. The man she went into hotels with. He's Julian, her boyfriend. Probably since before we were even married. The silence that followed was deafening. I looked at Chloe. I was looking for denial, shock, anything to indicate Matthew was wrong. But what I saw was defeat. And then something in me changed. The sadness turned into fury. Pure, burning, righteous fury. All of this, all of what you did to me, was to rob me? Chloe lifted her chin. A final, pathetic attempt at false dignity. You don't need all that money. You don't have anyone else. I don't have anyone. I stood up. I don't have anyone? My voice echoed in that empty room. In that house, she had turned into a mausoleum. I have my son. I have my house. I have my dignity. Or at least I did before you stripped it away from me, piece by piece. Matthew put a hand on my shoulder. Mom, easy, breathe. But I couldn't be calm. Months of accumulated rage were exploding like a volcano. Do you know what hurts the most, Chloe? It's not the money. It's not the house. It's that you used my son. You manipulated him. You blinded him. And you almost destroyed the only thing I had left. Matthew stepped between us. Mom, I need you to trust me. Can you do that? I looked him in the eye. My son. My only son. I have always trusted you. Then let me fix this. But my way. Okay? I nodded, even though I didn't understand what he was planning. Matthew turned to Chloe. You have 1 hour to pack your personal belongings. The essentials. I'll send the rest later. But you are leaving today. Now. What? Matthew, this is my house. No. This was never your house. And as of this moment, this is no longer your marriage. They say the truth hurts. But you know what hurts more? The years you lost believing in lies. Chloe stood frozen, as if Matthew's words couldn't be real. You can't. You can't just throw me out like this. I'm your wife. You're a liar, a thief, and an adulteress. What part of that qualifies as a wife? Matthew took out his phone again. He dialed a number, put it on speaker. Someone answered on the second ring. Mr. Matthew, good afternoon. It was the voice of Mr. Wallace, the lawyer. Mr. Wallace, I'm here with my mother and with Chloe. Can you confirm what you told me on Tuesday? There was a pause. We heard papers shuffling on the other side. Of course. On February 26th, Miss Chloe Miller presented herself at my office with documents to execute a property transfer. She wanted to add her name to the deed of the property located at 347 Magnolia Drive, owned by Mrs. Eleanor Hayes. Mrs. Hayes' signature on the documents was clearly a forgery. I have retained copies as evidence and have filed a report with the proper authorities. The attempted real estate fraud is documented. Chloe's face went from white to green. That's a lie. I have video from my office's security cameras, Mr. Wallace interrupted firmly. You arrived alone, with the documents already prepared. I explained that I needed Mrs. Hayes to be physically present, and you insisted she had given you permission and was too ill to come out. When I asked for a doctor's note, you left abruptly. Matthew hung up. He looked at Chloe with an expression I had never seen. Pure contempt. Anything to say? Chloe clenched her fists. There was nothing left of the sweet, polite woman I met 3 years ago. Her true face was emerging, like a snake shedding its skin. Fine. You want the truth? Here it is. She crossed her arms. Chin high. Defiant. Your mom doesn't need that house. She's old, alone. What does she want a 3-bedroom property for? Julian and I could have used it. We could have done something productive with it. Julian and you? I repeated. My voice was trembling. Yes, Julian. My real partner. The man I love. Not like this. She pointed at Matthew with disdain. This boring workaholic who only talks about logistics and numbers. Matthew didn't even blink. but I saw his hands clench into fists. "Since when?" he asked in a controlled voice. "Does it matter?" "Since before we were married, if you must know. Julian and I have been together for 5 years. But he doesn't have money. You do. Or, well, your family does." She gestured at me. "That house in Willow Creek is easily worth $500,000. The land upstate, another $150. The savings, the investments. We're talking about almost $700,000, all for an old woman who doesn't even have other kids. Who's she going to leave it to? The cat?" Every word was a dagger. But, strangely, they didn't hurt me anymore. Because I finally saw with perfect clarity who this woman was. "So this was all for money," I said. It wasn't a question. Obviously. Why else would I marry someone like Matthew? For love? Please. Love doesn't pay the bills. It doesn't buy you the car you want. It doesn't take you to Miami 3 times a year. Matthew was still motionless. But something dark crossed his gaze. "The $21,000 you transferred from my mom's account. Where are they?" Chloe smiled. A cruel smile that chilled my blood. "In a joint account with Julian. We were going to use it for a down payment on a condo in Miami. But your little busybody lawyer friend ruined everything." "And the money for the bathroom remodel? The $6,000. We used that too." "Well, 4,000. The other 2 actually went to the bathroom. I'm not that bad." She said it with venomous sarcasm. I didn't recognize this person. How had I lived under the same roof with her for months without seeing what she really was? Matthew took a deep breath. He pulled another document from his briefcase. "You signed a prenup when we got married, remember?" For the first time, I saw real fear in Chloe's eyes. "That's not valid," my lawyer said. "Your lawyer was wrong. The agreement states that in the event of proven infidelity or financial fraud, you are entitled to no community property. 0. Nothing. You can't prove infidelity with a few pictures." "Pictures?" "Chloe, I have videos. WhatsApp messages that Mr. Wallace recovered from your phone when you left it in his office. Complete conversations with Julian where you talk about the plan. Where you laugh about my mother. Where you plan to sell the properties." Matthew slid his phone across the table toward her. On the screen, a WhatsApp conversation. "Chloe, Feb. 14, 10:23 p.m. It's almost done, baby." The old lady already signed the bank papers. "She doesn't read anything she signs, lol, Julian." Feb. 14, 10:25 p.m. "And the son?" Chloe. Feb. 14, 10:26 p.m. Even easier. "He comes home so tired he doesn't even ask questions. Plus, he thinks I'm a saint." Julian. Feb. 14, 10:28 p.m. "How much longer?" Chloe. Feb. 14, 10:30 p.m. 2 months, max. "As soon as we have the house in my name, I'm leaving him. We sell everything. We're off to Miami. With $700,000, we can live like royalty." I felt sick. Literally. I had to sit down before I fell. This is. I couldn't find the words. "This is attempted fraud, theft, forgery, and adultery," Matthew said mechanically. "And it's all documented, recorded, with dates, times, and witnesses." Chloe tried to grab the phone, but Matthew pulled it back. "Don't even try. It's all backed up. In the cloud. With my lawyer. With Mr. Wallace. With the police." "The police?" "I filed a formal police report on Thursday. That's why I came back from Chicago early. I wasn't at a conference. I was at the district attorney's office. Filing evidence. Requesting a restraining order. Making sure you can never get near my mother again." The silence that followed was absolute. Chloe finally understood that she had lost everything. "You have 1 hour," Matthew repeated. "Pack your clothes, your personal items, no furniture, no electronics, nothing that isn't yours, and get out. And where am I supposed to go? Not my problem. Call Julian. Call your mother. Call whoever you want. But you're leaving." Chloe looked at me then, and in her eyes, I saw something surprising. A plea. "Mrs. Eleanor, please, tell him not to do this." I made mistakes, but… Mistakes? The word came out of my mouth like venom. You call months of humiliation mistakes? Stealing my money? Trying to take my house? Using my son like a stepping stone? I stood up. I walked toward her. I had never felt so tall. I gave you my trust. I opened my life to you. I left my home for you. And you. You turned me into your servant. You erased me. You stole from me. You stripped me of everything except my dignity. I stopped, inches from her face. And that, Mija, I said, using the Spanish word on purpose, that you could never take because you didn't know where to look for it. Chloe recoiled as if I had slapped her. Matthew checked his watch. 57 minutes. Chloe understood there was nothing more to say. She went up the stairs to the master bedroom. We heard her throwing things, opening drawers, crying. But I didn't care anymore. I sat down next to my son. I took his hand. The same hand I held when he learned to walk. When I took him to his first day of school. When his father died and we cried together all night. Thank you, son. Don't thank me, Mom. This is what I should have done from the beginning. How did you know? The photos. Mrs. Helen sent them to me. I froze. Helen? She messaged me on Facebook a month ago. Told me she had to talk to me. She told me everything. How Chloe treated you. How she saw you looking worse and worse. She even sent me pictures of you cleaning, cooking, serving. I didn't believe her at first. I thought she was exaggerating. But then I started to investigate. And I found everything else. Mrs. Helen, my neighbor, my friend, the one who never abandoned me. She hired a private investigator with her own money, Matthew continued. He followed Chloe for 3 weeks, got the pictures with Julian, documented every outing, every lie. He handed it all to me in a manila envelope last Tuesday. The tears were rolling down my cheeks, but they were different now. They were tears of relief, of gratitude. I have something to tell you, too, Mom. Matthew's tone changed. He got serious. What is it, son? Your house. The one in Willow Creek. I never really closed it up. What do you mean? I hired someone to take care of it, to water the plants, to keep everything just as it was. I've been paying the utilities. Everything. My heart skipped a beat. Why? Because I always knew you'd be back. Sometimes justice doesn't come when you expect it. It comes when you least imagine, in the way you least anticipate, from the hands you never thought. 45 minutes later, Chloe came down the stairs, dragging 2 large suitcases. Her eyes were red, her makeup was smeared, her hair a mess. There was nothing left of the perfect, controlled woman who had been my tormentor for months. Matthew was standing by the door, arms crossed. I remained seated on the sofa, watching, a silent witness to the end of this nightmare. I'm ready. I'm leaving, Chloe said in a broken voice. Wait. Matthew held up a hand. Before you go, there's one more thing. He pulled a new folder from his briefcase. He opened it on the coffee table. These are the divorce papers. They're already prepared, signed by me. All they need is your signature. Chloe turned even paler. Already? So fast? My lawyer drafted them on Wednesday, as soon as we confirmed all the fraud. You can sign them now, or you can wait for a process server to deliver them to your new address. Your choice. Chloe looked at the papers as if they were poisonous snakes. If I sign now, what do I get? Matthew let out a dry, humorless laugh. What do you get? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I already explained that. The prenup makes it very clear. But we were married for 3 years. There must be something. There was. And you stole it. The $21,000 from my mother. That could have been yours if you had been honest. If you had been a good wife, a good daughter-in-law. But you chose to be a thief. Matthew's words were like sentences. Cold. Final. Chloe looked for my gaze. One last time. Mrs. Eleanor, if you drop the charges, I can pay the money back, a little at a time. I swear No. My voice sounded firmer than I felt inside. There are no deals, no negotiations. You made your choice. Now live with the consequences. I stood up. I walked toward her slowly. This time, I wasn't shaking. I wasn't crying. I was completely whole. Do you know what the worst part of all this is, Chloe? It's not what you did to me. It's what you did to him. I pointed at Matthew. He loved you. He really did. He worked like a dog to give you the life you wanted. He'd come home exhausted, but he always asked how your day was. He respected you. He admired you. And you used him as a ladder, as a bank, as a fool. Chloe looked down. That is something you will never be able to repair, because the love you destroy doesn't come back, and the respect you lose is never recovered. I took the documents from the table. I put them in her hands. Sign and get out. Before I change my mind and ask to have you arrested right here. Chloe took the pen with trembling hands. She signed every page without reading. She knew she had lost any and all bargaining power. When she finished, Matthew took the documents. He reviewed them quickly. He put them back in his folder. One more thing, he said before she could grab her suitcases. He took out his phone again. He opened his banking app. He showed her the screen. I've just frozen all our joint accounts. I blocked your credit cards linked to my name. I canceled the insurance on the car I was paying for. I removed your access to every service or platform that was under my name. Chloe's eyes widened in panic. But how am I going to? That's your problem. Call Julian. I'm sure he'll help you with all that true love you two have. The sarcasm in his voice was as sharp as a razor. Chloe grabbed her suitcases. She opened the door. She paused on the threshold. This isn't over. I'm going to fight this. I'm going to. Do it, Matthew interrupted her. Please, do it, because I have a lot more evidence I haven't shown. Security videos, messages, testimonies. And every time you fight, every time you try something, I will present more evidence until you not only lose the divorce, but you end up in prison for fraud. They stared at each other for 5 long seconds. Chloe left, without saying goodbye, without looking back. We heard her footsteps fading down the sidewalk, the sound of the suitcases rolling on the pavement, the sound of a car starting. And then, silence. Matthew closed the door. He leaned against it. He closed his eyes. And then, he crumbled. He didn't cry, but his entire body was shaking. 3 years of marriage, of illusions, of plans for the future, all destroyed in a single afternoon. I went to him. I hugged him. Like when he was a little boy and fell in the park. Like when he cried on my shoulder the day we buried his father. It's over, son. It's over. How did I not see it, Mom? How was I so blind? Because you loved. And love trusts. It's not your fault. We stayed like that for several minutes, mother and son, survivors of the same storm. When he finally pulled away, his eyes were red, but his expression was different, determined. Mom, I need to talk to you. Tell me. Your house in Willow Creek is ready. You can go back whenever you want. Today, if you like. But, he paused. But first, we need to do something. Something I should have done from the beginning. What is it? Protect you. For real. Legally. So that no one can ever do to you what Chloe did. He pulled more documents from his briefcase. This man had come prepared for war. We're going to secure your properties. We're going to create a trust. We're going to make sure your money is protected. And we're going to make sure you get back every single dollar she stole. I looked at the papers. The letters were blurry from the tears welling up in my eyes again. And how are we going to get that money back? Matthew smiled. It was the first real smile I had seen from him in months. That, Mom, is where the story gets interesting. He sat down next to me. He opened his laptop. Because it turns out that Julian Ramos isn't just some guy. And what I found out about him is going to make Chloe wish she'd never met him. Justice isn't always fast. But when it arrives prepared, when it comes with evidence, when it comes with the truth, it is relentless. Matthew turned the laptop toward me. On the screen was a photograph of Julian Ramos. 38 years old, according to the document. Black hair slicked back, a salesman's smile, a navy blue suit. Julian Ramos, Matthew began, sells luxury cars, or at least, That's what his Facebook profile says. And what's so special about him? That it's a lie. It's all a lie. Matthew opened another tab, an official document from the DA's office. Julian has a record. Fraud in 2019. Scammed 3 elderly women in Texas. Promised them real estate investments. Got between $15,000 and $30,000 from each of them. Disappeared with the money. A chill ran down my spine. He served 2 years in prison. Got out in 2022. And ever since, he's been running the same scheme, only more sophisticated. More sophisticated how? He doesn't work alone now. He uses women as bait. Attractive women who marry or get involved with men who have elderly mothers with property. The woman gains the family's trust, identifies the assets, and together they execute the fraud. The horror of what I was hearing left me speechless. Chloe isn't the first one, Mom. She's the fourth. The fourth? Matthew nodded. I found 3 other women. Same pattern. They get married, live with the family for months, get access to bank accounts and documents, attempt transfers or forgeries, and when they're discovered, they disappear. Julian always stays in the shadows. Did the others file charges? One did. The other 2 were ashamed. They didn't want their families to know they'd been scammed. That's what Julian counts on. The fear, the shame, the silence. Matthew closed the laptop. But we are not going to stay silent. What are you going to do? I already did it. I contacted the other victims. I shared all the evidence I have. They agreed to testify. With 4 documented cases, the DA's office has enough for a serious investigation. I leaned back on the sofa. My mind was barely processing it all. But there's more, Matthew continued. The account where Chloe deposited your money, we traced it. And it has $60,000 in it. I sat up straight. What? But she only stole $21,000 from me? Exactly. The rest is from the other victims. Julian and Chloe were pooling their money for their big escape. The condo in Miami. The life of luxury. All financed with stolen money. Can we get it back? We already are. My lawyer filed for an asset seizure. A judge froze the account on Friday. Neither Chloe nor Julian can touch that money. For the first time in months, I felt something like hope. And now? Now we wait. The legal process is slow, but with all the evidence we have, it's a sure thing. You're going to get your money back, Mom. With interest. Every dollar. Matthew took my hands. But that's not all. There's something else I want to do. He opened another folder. This one had different documents. I want us to go to the lawyer's office. Tomorrow. We need to legally secure your properties, so that no one, ever, can try to take them from you again. And how do we do that? An irrevocable trust. Your house and your land will be protected. Only you can access them. No one else. Not even me. I looked him in the eye. Not even you? Not even me, Mom. Because what I learned in all of this is that trust isn't enough. You need legal protection. Real, solid protection. The tears rolled down my cheeks again, but they were different now. They were tears of relief, of gratitude, of love. I also want you to go back to your house, Matthew said. To your house. Where your memories are. Where Dad is. Where your life is. And you? I'm going to stay here for now. I need to sell this place. Close this chapter. But I'll visit you every weekend. Like before. Like it should be. You don't want me to stay with you? Matthew shook his head. No, Mom. You deserve your space, your freedom, your peace. For months, I took all of that away from you without realizing it. It's time for you to get it back. He hugged me tightly, like he hadn't since he was a child. Forgive me for not seeing, for not listening, for not protecting you. That's enough, son. It's over. No, it's not. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making it up to you. We stayed like that. Mother and son. Survivors. Outside, the sun was beginning to set. The golden light streamed through the windows of that house that was never mine, that I never wanted to be mine. And for the first time in months, I took a deep breath, because I knew that tomorrow I would wake up in my own bed, in my own house, surrounded by my memories. Because the nightmare was over. Or at least, I thought it was. Because what I would discover in the coming days would teach me that justice isn't just about getting back what was taken. It's about making sure they can never do it again. When you hit rock bottom, there are only two paths. Stay there or start climbing. And I had spent far too long in the dark. Part 11. The day of the family judgment. Monday morning, Matthew and I went to the lawyer's office. Mr. Wallace greeted us with a warm hug. He was a man in his 60s, with an impeccable gray suit and an honest gaze. He had been Arthur's friend for over 20 years. "Eleanor, I am so glad to see you looking well," he said with genuine warmth. "Thanks to you, Mr. Wallace. Matthew told me everything. I only did what was right. That woman tried to commit a crime right in front of me. I couldn't stay silent." We sat in his office. Mr. Wallace spread several documents across the mahogany desk. "These are the papers for the trust. Once signed, your properties are completely protected. No one will be able to sell, transfer, or mortgage them without your personal, physical authorization, not even with power of attorney. And if something happens to me?" I asked. "The trust designates Matthew as the sole beneficiary upon your passing, but as long as you are living, only you decide." I signed every document. With every signature, I felt like I was reclaiming pieces of myself, my autonomy, my power. "Now, about the stolen money," Mr. Wallace continued. "The account is frozen, but we need to act quickly because Chloe and Julian are going to try to move it." "How do you know?" Matthew asked. "Because they already tried. On Saturday night, Julian attempted an international wire transfer to an account in Panama. The bank blocked it automatically because of the court order. That made them nervous. Is that good for us? It's excellent, because it proves intent to hide assets. That makes the charges more severe." Mr. Wallace took out another envelope. This one was thicker. "Furthermore, I have something else. The other 3 victims have agreed to join a class action lawsuit. With all 4 cases together, we're talking about fraud totaling over $85,000. The figure left me breathless. Julian did that to other families? To 3 others that we've found. There are probably more who haven't dared to come forward." Matthew clenched his fists. "That man deserves to be in prison, and he will be. The DA's office has already issued an arrest warrant. It's a matter of days." We left the lawyer's office with a strange feeling. It was relief mixed with something else. With power, with control, reclaimed. "What's next, son?" I asked as we walked to the parking garage. "Now, we go to your house." "To my house?" "Yes, it's time for you to go home." The drive to Willow Creek was quiet. I looked out the window, watching the familiar streets go by. The park where Matthew used to play as a child. The bakery where Arthur bought pastries every Sunday. The supply shop that had been mine. When we turned onto Magnolia Drive, my heart began to beat faster. And then I saw it. My house. The sand-colored walls. The green gate. And the roses. Dear God, the roses were more beautiful than ever. They had grown, covering almost the entire front fence in a cascade of red and pink. "I hired Mr. Miller to take care of them," Matthew explained. "He watered them every few days, gave them fertilizer." I got out of the car, my legs shaking. I walked to the gate. Matthew handed me the keys. My keys. The ones I had left behind months ago. I opened the door slowly. The smell hit me first. Of home? Of memories. I went inside. Everything was exactly as I had left it. The furniture in its place. The terracotta-colored curtains hanging. The photographs on the wall. And there, on the porch by the garden, was the wicker rocking chair. How? I couldn't finish the question. "I found it," Matthew said. "Chloe sold it at a flea market. I paid the man who bought it $200. I told him it was my dad's. He understood. I walked toward the rocking chair. I ran my fingers over the woven wicker. I sat down. And I rocked. Just as Arthur used to do every evening. The tears rolled down my cheeks. But I didn't stop them. "Welcome home, Mom," Matthew whispered. We spent the rest of the day dusting, opening windows, letting the fresh air in. Matthew brought in the boxes with the photographs Chloe had hidden. We hung them up again, one by one. Arthur at our wedding. Matthew as a baby. our family, complete. At sunset, Matthew made coffee. We sat on the porch, watching the roses sway in the breeze. "Mom, there's something I haven't told you." His tone alerted me. "What is it?" "Chloe called me today. 3 times. What did she want?" "To apologize. To beg me to drop the charges. She says Julian manipulated her. That she's a victim too. Do you believe her?" Matthew shook his head slowly. "I don't know. Maybe it's true. Maybe Julian did manipulate her. But that doesn't erase what she did to you. What she did to us. What did you tell her? That it was too late. That the wheels of justice are already in motion." I rocked in silence, digesting it all. "Do you think I did the right thing?" Matthew asked in a small voice. I looked at him. My son. My only son. The good man I had raised. "Yes. Because this isn't about revenge. It's about justice. It's about her understanding that actions have consequences." Matthew nodded. "Tomorrow we have a meeting at the DA's office. They're going to file the formal charges. Will you? Do you want me to go?" "I need you to go. I need you to see how this ends. Then I'll go." That night, I slept in my own bed, in my own house, surrounded by my things. And for the first time in months, I rested. Justice doesn't always come in the way you expect. But when it comes with truth, with evidence, and with witnesses, it is inevitable. The district attorney's office was a gray, imposing building. Matthew and I arrived at 9 in the morning on Tuesday. In the waiting room, the other 3 victims were already there. A woman in her 70s, thin, with white hair in a bun. Her name was Teresa. Another, about 65, heavy-set, with thick glasses. Her name was Blanca. And the third, Araceli, 72, with a cane and a firm gaze. We recognized each other immediately, not from having met, but because we shared the same wound. "You too?" Teresa asked when I sat next to her. "Me too. They stole $18,000 from me," Blanca said in a trembling voice. "My life savings. For my granddaughter's college fund. $25,000 from me," Teresa added. "It was for my hip surgery. Now I can't walk right." Araceli tapped the floor with her cane. $20,000 from me. My husband's life insurance. The only thing he left me when he died. Every story was a dagger. Every number represented destroyed dreams, ignored needs, betrayed trust. "And you?" Araceli asked me. $21,000, my savings. What my husband and I saved over 30 years. We sat in silence. 4 elderly women, 4 deceived families, over $80,000 stolen. The door opened. A young prosecutor came out, holding folders. Mrs. Eleanor Hayes, Mrs. Teresa Morales, Mrs. Blanca Ramirez, and Mrs. Araceli Soto. We all nodded. "I'm the assistant district attorney handling your case. Please, come in." We entered a conference room. There was a long table with plastic chairs. In the corner, a video camera was recording. "First of all, I want to thank you for coming. I know this isn't easy," the prosecutor began. "We have sufficient evidence to prosecute both Julian Ramos and the 4 women involved, including Chloe Miller." "Chloe too?" I asked, surprised. "Of course. She wasn't a victim. She was an accomplice. The evidence clearly shows that." The prosecutor laid out documents, photographs, printouts of messages. Julian and Chloe met 6 years ago at a sales seminar. They have worked together on at least 7 cases since then. You 4 are the ones we could document, but we believe there are more. 7 families? Blanca asked, incredulous. At least. Julian has a method. He identifies middle-class professional men, preferably with widowed mothers who own property. Chloe, or another woman, approaches the man, starts a relationship, marries him, or moves in. She gains the family's trust, and when she has access to accounts and documents, she strikes. Teresa began to cry silently. They transfer the money to joint accounts, wait a few months, and then try to wire it overseas before disappearing. "Try?" Matthew asked. "Yes, because this time they didn't succeed. Thanks to Mr. Wallace, the lawyer, alerting you in time, and Mr. Hayes acting quickly, we froze everything before they could move it." The prosecutor smiled for the first time, The $60,000 that are in the frozen account will be returned to each of you proportionally, according to what was stolen, plus damages. Blanca let out a sob of relief. Really? We're going to get our money back? Yes. Not all at once. The process takes 3 to 6 months, but you will get it back. For the first time, I felt like I could breathe fully. And them? Julian and Chloe? Araceli asked. Julian already has an arrest warrant. We are actively searching for him. Chloe is cooperating. Cooperating? The prosecutor nodded. She came in yesterday. Alone. She asked for a deal. She offered to testify against Julian, provide evidence, testify, in exchange for a reduced sentence. I felt a mix of emotions, rage, disbelief, and something like pity. And are you going to accept? Matthew asked in a hard tone. It depends on how useful her testimony is. But even with a deal, she will face charges, probably 2 years in prison and full restitution. 2 years. For destroying lives, for stealing dreams, for betraying trust. And Julian? I insisted. If we catch him, with his priors and these new charges, he's looking at 8 to 12 years. No possibility of parole. The meeting lasted 2 more hours. We signed statements, answered questions, shared evidence. When we left, the 4 of us hugged strangers who had become sisters through shared pain. God bless you, Teresa said. See you at the trial, Blanca added. Araceli squeezed my hand. You were brave to report it first. Because of you, we dared to come forward too. Those words broke me and healed me at the same time. In the parking lot, Matthew hugged me tightly. It's over, Mom. It's really over. Is it really? Yes. Now, all that's left is to live. We drove back to Willow Creek. The sun shone differently. The air smelled cleaner. When we got to the house, there was a car parked out front. Mrs. Helen got out, carrying a steaming hot casserole dish. Eleanor, I brought you a casserole to celebrate your homecoming. Behind her was Paige with her baby and Mr. Miller with a bag of groceries. We neighbors pitched in for some groceries, so you don't have to worry about a thing for a few days, Mr. Miller said sheepishly. I was speechless. My community, my neighbors, my people. That afternoon, we ate together in the garden, under the roses, with the smell of the casserole filling the air, with laughter and hugs, and the warmth of knowing I was supported. And I understood something fundamental. Wealth isn't what you have. It's who holds you up when you fall. Kibi Endo. Sometimes justice comes in unexpected ways, not just from the courts, but from the neighbors who never abandoned you. 6 months later, I'm sitting in the wicker rocking chair on the porch of my house. It's 6 in the evening, and the sun is painting the sky orange and pink. The roses are at their peak, blooming as they never have before. I have a cup of coffee in my hands. Strong, with cinnamon, just how my mother taught me to make it. And for the first time in years, I feel at peace. Julian Ramos was arrested 3 weeks after that meeting at the DA's office. He tried to flee to Mexico but was caught at the border. He is now in state prison, serving a 10-year sentence with no chance of early release. Chloe fulfilled her part of the deal. She testified. She turned over evidence. She confessed to everything. They gave her 2.5 years, but with the possibility of serving it on probation if she completes a rehabilitation and community service program. I saw her only once after the trial. It was in the courthouse, the day of her sentencing. She looked different, no makeup, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, plain clothes, swollen eyes. When she saw me, she looked down. She didn't dare approach me. I didn't try to speak to her either. Some wounds don't need words. Just time. I got my $21,000 back. With interest and damages, it came to $26,000. That money is now in a secure investment account, managed by a reputable bank. It earns modest, but real, returns. Teresa, Blanca, and Araceli also got their money back. We meet once a month for coffee. We've become friends, sisters in battle, as Teresa says. Matthew sold the condo where he lived with Chloe. He didn't want to keep a single memory of that place. With the money, he bought a small apartment about 15 minutes from here. He comes for dinner every Sunday. He's going to therapy. He says he needs to heal, to understand how he missed the signs, to learn to trust again. I also went to therapy for 3 months. My therapist helped me understand something important, that I wasn't weak for allowing the abuse, that emotional abuse is systematic, subtle, designed precisely so you don't see it until it's too late. It wasn't your fault, she repeated to me in every session. You were the victim of an expert manipulator. Those words freed me from a guilt I didn't deserve to carry. My house is full of life again. The terracotta curtains are back up. The photographs hang on every wall. Arthur's rocking chair has its place of honor on the porch. I opened a small workshop in the guest room. I teach sewing to women in the neighborhood. We meet twice a week. We embroider, we knit, we talk, we call ourselves the Unbreakables. There are 8 of us, all over 60, all with stories of resilience. Some widows, some divorced, 1 or 2 single by choice, but all of us unbreakable. We sell what we make at a local craft market. Embroidered tablecloths, knitted cushions, shawls. We don't make much, but it's not about the money. It's about the company, the purpose, the feeling of being useful and valued. Mrs. Helen is part of the group. She's the one who really saved me, the one who opened Matthew's eyes, the one who never stopped seeing me. I knew something was wrong. She told me one day while we were sewing, "You looked more and more faded, like a candle burning down. Why didn't you tell me directly? Because you wouldn't have believed me. When you're in the middle of the abuse, you can't see it. You need someone on the outside to hold up the mirror." She was right. The land upstate is still mine. Matthew suggested I sell it to have more liquidity, but I decided to keep it. Maybe one day I'll build that little cabin Arthur and I dreamed of. Or maybe I'll leave it to Matthew. Or maybe I'll just keep it as a reminder that I can. On Sundays, after eating with Matthew, we sit in the garden. He tells me about his work, his plans, the women he's met but isn't quite ready to start anything serious with. Give it time, son. The heart heals at its own pace. And you, Mom? Are you healed? The question still takes me by surprise every time he asks. I'm working on it. A little more every day. And it's true. There are good days and there are hard days. Days when I feel strong, and days when the memory of those dark months hits me without warning. But even on the hard days, I know something I didn't know before. I know I can survive. I know I am stronger than I thought. I know I deserve respect, dignity, and love. And I know that I will never, ever again allow anyone to make me feel like less than what I am. This evening, as I rock in Arthur's chair, I think about the long road I've traveled, about the woman I was, about the woman I almost lost, about the woman I am now. And I smile. Because the real justice wasn't seeing Chloe convicted. It wasn't getting my money back. It wasn't even returning to my house. The real justice was getting myself back. Aztun Kinines. Sometimes I think about that day with the broom, about the tears falling on the pavement, about the humiliation that broke me, but also woke me up. Because I learned one thing. It's never too late to defend what you've built. It's never too late to remind everyone who you are. And it's never, ever too late to sweep, but only the trash that doesn't belong to you. Dignity is not a gift. It's not up for negotiation. You don't beg for it. You defend it. And I, Eleanor Hayes, at 67 years old, finally learned to defend mine. Finn, if this story touched something in your heart, if it made you reflect on dignity, respect, and the courage to defend yourself, leave me your comment. Tell me where you're watching from. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it. Give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for more real-life stories that remind us it's never too late to take back what is ours. Because true wealth isn't what you possess. It's what you refuse to let anyone take from you. Subtitles by the Amara.org community.